Hey, this is Skullgirdle, and welcome to I'm doing an album review on my video channel. These are rare. They're always been rare, and they're even more rare. And if you want to see written ones, you'll see those through Obscura Undead. So, what am I reviewing? Well, it's on the screen, y'all. It's Sounds Like Winter, Fight the Stairs, which is their second release that came out in April of 2021. That's this year, the second year of the pandemic, which hopefully will be the last year of the pandemic, but people are stupid. Anyway, let's move on. You know, I like Sounds Like Winter a lot. I mean, I've got them on my wall here. So, of course, if I'm going to choose an album to review in 2021, it's probably going to be their album. And it just so happens to be very lucky for me that it is a kick ass album. It's just a kick ass album. It's not a kick ass album because I like Sounds Like Winter, it's just a plain old kick ass album. Solidly post punk. They pretty much sit solidly in post punk. And if I had to describe their sound overall, I would say that they are boisterous, mixed with a monotone and a feeling that is like futurism in art. Think Marcel Duchamp nude descending a staircase with a splash of overarching bleakness because their lyrics are bleak. And on this album, more than the last album, Ant and Andy have teamed up to write more songs together. So the lyrics are written by Ant Bannister and Andy Lennon. And the lineup is Ant Bannister on vocals, Andy Lennon on guitar and vocals, Letitia Olberry on drums, and Sean Williams on bass. And there are a few distinctive sounds to this album. This is one of those bands. I mean, it's just one of those bands that when you hear Sounds Like Winter, you know it sounds like winter. And they still manage to make every song doesn't sound the same, which I think is good songwriting, good musicianship, and a willingness to stretch your wings. I can't believe I just fucking said that. Whatever. Let's get to the album. So I got this on LP. Look at that. And you can see the back. It's probably got a shine on it. I can't see my video because my recorder doesn't show it. And then we have this lovely, trying to make it go down, interlining. And I am aware that it says, "Thank you, Michelle." I'm not confident that that's actually me. And then here is, oh my God. Let me make this more awkward, please. Here is what she looks like. And yep, it's upside down. But this one's right side up. So it's colored vinyl, which we know in the last few years, the colored vinyl used to be much lower quality than the non-colored vinyl. I'm sorry, y'all. This album is precious to me, so I'm just going to put it away kind of properly and kind of fucking messed up. I'll fix that later, but I've got to get it into its case because my head will pop if I don't. So colored vinyl is now of a similar quality to the black vinyl. So we can get all the pretty, pretty colors that we want without losing sound quality. And let's talk about the sound quality on this album because it's fan-fucking-tastic. I don't know if you realize this, but Ant Bannister is actually a sound engineer. So they had really a good opportunity there to make a really well-rounded sounding album, and they fucking nailed it. One interesting thing about this album is that they all got in the studio together and did what they call recorded live. Like, they didn't record the drums first and then come back and then the bassist comes in separately. They didn't record separately. They recorded together, and then some things had to be added later. The vocals had to be added later because so they had the best sound quality possible. So you're listening to the band playing as they would play live. And of course, they sound absolutely amazing, and it just makes you want to hear them live that much more. And they have been playing live shows because unlike the countries who can't get their shit together, hello the US and England, they have done much better with the coronavirus. So they've been able to go out for much longer than the rest of us. Safely go out. Anyway, let's talk about them thar songs because I have a few notes that were given to me by the band on the lyrics, etc. And here is the Bandcamp. Of course, I will put the links below. So I've listened to this album like 5, 10, 20 times. I don't know. A lot. And not quite enough to have the words memorized because apparently that takes me way longer than most people. But we'll go through it track by track after I do the overall. The overall is, like I said before, their lyrics, they're bleak. Their lyrics are very bleak. There's an element in this, and I know that there's some influence in several songs from Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. Like a lot of goth bands, post-punk. These guys are post-punk. If you want to differentiate, I don't give a shit. I'm not... I use genre to find stuff more than to define stuff, if that makes sense to you. But they've got a lot of influence from Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. And you can see that heavily in The Wedding Feast, especially. That is very much influenced by that book. But you can kind of feel some of that theme coming here and there throughout other songs. Like their album Sticks and Stones, there's some introspection. There is heavy bass, heavy beats, guitars that have a definite rock sound, and the vocals can be monotone in the best way, honestly monotone. Unlike the first album with Sticks and Stones, you could really hear that heavy Joy Division influence on that album. I mean, they love Joy Division, they love the Damned, they're not hiding that. And they're not the kind of band that gets pissed off if you say that you can hear those elements, which is great because you can hear those elements. But in Fight the Stairs, they've kept some of those things because Ant's vocals still can tend to be pretty monotone, and it really fits the bleak lyrics, but the overall sound of the band has really lifted up and progressed from that original sound. So this is one of those albums that's a very logical step for a band that's really starting to gel, for a band that's really starting to find their voice. It's not that they didn't have their voice before, but they are really starting to find their voice. So this album is, I think, something special. This is one of my favorite releases of 2021, and I'm not just saying that because I like them. And yeah, I like them. I like them as people. They're wonderful people. They're very political, which if you read between the lines in their lyrics, it probably, if you think it's political, it probably is. They're very aware of what's going on, not only in Australia, where they're from, because they're from Sydney, Australia, but also in the other places that affect the rest of the world. They know what's going on in the US. Unfortunately, everybody does. I wish we could hide some of it or fix it, but you know, and England and Europe overall, of course, Oceania, etc. They're very well aware of world dynamics, world politics, world economics, and it very much shows in their lyrics. They're self-aware. They're just good people. And it is a pleasure to support a band that are good people who fight for what they think is right and practice inclusion, because you know I practice inclusion. So now that I've waxed poetic about how much I love these guys, this is just a great album. I mean, they start with what sounds like an announcer voice. Let me get the track list up. We'll just put this track list up because, oh my God, I'm not wearing my glasses. Let's see if I can read blue fucking type. Gathered for the Fall is kind of about, they start with, well, my friends, we're crusting now. This is social commentary. Gathered for the Fall, stratified in classes. This is like class warfare. A lot of times in the Western or so-called developed world, just developed differently, y'all, just developed differently by imperialists and colonialists, we think that we don't have classes. Sorry, I had to think that thought. I have no brain. Anyway, we think that we don't have class warfare, but we absolutely have class warfare, as evidenced in the many protests. And right now in the US, we have businesses that are saying people just don't want to work. We're sorry, it's slow. People don't want to work. Well, people don't want to work for $7.25 an hour because the minimum wage in the US has not gone up in like 13 years or something like that, or 20. While cost of living has gone up. So people are realizing and taking jobs that pay more, and had walkouts so that restaurants, and especially like McDonald's, there was a big walkout. So some of those restaurants are starting to raise that pay level so we can get people closer to a living wage. Anyway, that's part of class warfare, and that's Gathered for the Fall. I'm looking at the lyric sheet right here, is about those kind of class wars that we think aren't class wars. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll on the right side, and of course I scrolled the wrong thing. Who We Aren't is really just about kind of being yourself and hiding in expectations of others. And in fact, they have a lyric here. I love that I have this lyric sheet. Thank you, Aunt, for sending that to me and being so generous with your time. It's easy to become the fakes we are. I think that says it right there. Who we aren't is about becoming what is expected of you, what you're molded into. You know, it's really hard to break out of that stuff. And we have Fight the Stairs. Okay, so this is the title of the album. And when I first saw that, I was like, is that what I think that is? I was like, surely not, because I get shit wrong all the time. I'm like constantly wrong about song lyrics and stuff because I come at it from a odd, different aim. And unfortunately for me, not for other people, I almost never think vampire when I'm thinking goth lyrics. Please feel free to laugh. Feel free to laugh. I laugh at it. So I get stuff wrong. But this is the title album, the title song of the album. And it made me think of this party I went to 1,000 years, because it's all about me for this couple minutes. I'd gone to this party that was across the street from a boarding house where I lived. And I lived upstairs in the boarding house. Anyway, I go to this party, and it was one of the best parties of my life. I still remember it. I mean, I met so many different people from so many walks of life. I met an exotic dancer. No, she was not performing at the party. Exotic dancers are people. She was hanging out, and she was a lovely human being. I met some people from the Temple of Psychic Youth. I forget if they were actually from California or if they were from Austin. I think they were from California, but they were kind of touring around. I saw my first fancy scrotal piercing, which was gold with tiger's eye. Holy cow. One of my friends came in a long skirt with combat boots, a t-shirt, and pearls, and he looked lovely. So cute. One of the most interesting people I've ever known in my life, and one of the smartest. I met all sorts of different, it's like artists, musicians. I mean, that was my world in college anyway. But just all these different people right across the street from my house. It was so cool. I still remember that party. It was so great. And there was a point where I kept going to the bathroom there at my house, which was just across the street, because there was a one bathroom house and there's like 100 people at this party. I'm telling you, I met a lot of different people. So there was one point in the night where I probably should have stayed in, but I had to potty. And I crawled up those stairs because I could not walk up those stairs because I had been drinking that much. I was young. This is before you figure out when to stop for the evening, when you don't know that you're not going to enjoy yourself anymore. Anyway, whatever. So drunk AF. And I was crawling up the stairs, and that's what made me think Fight the Stairs when I first saw this album title. So it turns out that's what it's about, when you're so drunk that you have to crawl up the fucking stairs. And this song is about, trying to go up the stairs when you done been drinking. And you know, when you're drinking, when you're drunk and all that kind of stuff, you like discuss world philosophy and everything's really great. And you're like, oh, we've solved the world's problems. Woo! So they follow that. And this is a very interesting follow, the ordering of the album with the monsters. And the monsters is anxiety. It's your personal demons. It's those monsters that we all fight. And, you know, obviously, if I'm wrong, I'm sure Aunt will be like, no, you got that wrong. A song is a collaboration between the writers, musicians, if they're different, and the listener. And so many different things can happen on every song that's created. It's a collaboration. And so a lot of musicians enjoy when somebody comes up with something completely different that may not have been what they were thinking when they wrote the song. So from what I gather, sounds like Winter is pretty much exactly like that. So the monsters, I mean, I think they state something about anxiety. Oh, feeling lost and anxiety closes around me. I mean, that's a great lyric. Their lyrics on this album are really, I just think, really fantastic. And that is the lyrics team of Ant and Andy. I mean, Ant has been traditionally writing most of the lyrics, but Andy has been writing more lyrics and singing a little bit more on the album, and it's fantastic. That collaboration with the two of them has made for some really outstanding lyrics. I mean, when I received this, and I wish I'd memorized these lyrics, honestly. I read through the lyrics like 3 times and listened to the album reading the lyrics. I highly recommend that. I don't know that they have, yeah, they do. Look at that. They have lyrics for every song. When you listen to an album, if you really like the album, and I do this when I really like an album, I will read the lyrics while I listen to the album. I prefer to do it on the inner liner notes. Sometimes they put them there, sometimes they don't. Especially when you have a black inner liner with white type, it is really difficult to read. Anyway, we go day to day. It's like just the daily grind that you're just living day to day. And are you really living? I mean, some of these seem obvious, but when you really read the lyrics, it can be a little bit upsetting. Like I said, their lyrics are very fucking bleak. There's a lot to them, and there is a lot of shared experience for those of us living in I'm just going to say the Western imperial nations, but I know it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Capitalist. We'll go with capitalist. I mean, I'm living in a country with late stage capitalism. I assume that all the major English speaking countries are about the same, late stage capitalism. And I personally think it's poisonous and we can do better. Okay, the wedding feast. This is the one I was talking about that is kind of, well, it's absolutely based on Upton Sinclair's Wedding Feast because, or not Wedding Feast, The Jungle. If you've read The Jungle, then you know that it's like immigrants being grossly taken advantage of. It's not like we're not still fucking doing this, especially in the US where we have undocumented workers. They get taken horrible advantage of for going somewhere and trying to live a better life and have a safer place for their family. Frequently, they wind up in a situation similar to The Jungle. If you haven't read it, the problem with The Jungle is that when people read it, they read about the meatpacking industry and how gross it was then. Meatpacking industry is a little bit better now. I mean, the meat is less poisonous, but how they treat their workers is maybe marginally better. It's not good. It's not good. Some people who have exposed that a lot of these practices are still happening. It's terrible. Anyway, so if you can not just read that when you read The Jungle, because it's this whole story, then you can really understand where the wedding feast is coming from. And this is like this huge wedding feast, and people who are barely scraping by and they have nothing, they put everything they have into this one day in the hopes to not feel downtrodden, empty, whatever it is, into the wedding feast. And I think that they did a great job with this song, with the lyrics, etc. All the sounds, y'all. Because there's something about the bass lines that just, I don't know. They have a warmth to them, but they also have a bleakness. I don't know how Sean gets that particular sound, but it's consistent. It very sounds like winter. And it really sets the stage between that and some, I don't want to say tribal because that doesn't really say anything. Almost sometimes hand drum sounding beats mixed with the electronic sounds with the drums. Really, the rhythm section in Sounds Like Winter is out of this world. Okay, so Send the Boy is upsetting. It's kind of like Send in Your Little Servant Boy. Oliver Twist type of a story. It's bleak. It's fucking blink. It's blank. Yeah, I'm not going to edit this because I want to upload it. So, today. Anyway, so now we move on to No Interest, which is about apathy. Just apathy. Let's see. Consider, if you will, an open book. There are no mysteries. There's no matter where you look. There's no mystery. Life has no mystery. Life is fucking boring. Who gives a shit? And, okay, right. We have 2 songs. Primal Smear, again, is about capitalists. Fat cat capitalists. Somebody getting gluttonously rich. Like the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks, the people getting gluttonous. Not Elon Musk, not quite as much. He's got his own issues. But off the backs of the poor. Because I don't know if you realize this, in the U.S., Amazon, when the pandemic first started, they tried to start a fund for people who worked at Amazon to have health care and stuff for the COVID because the drivers weren't getting paid enough. The delivery service wasn't getting paid enough. People that work there don't get paid enough. And all these horrific stories came out. And Amazon is notorious for making shitloads. I mean, we've got 100 and something billionaire. Who needs that? Anyway, primal smears. Fat cats. I always think of the teapot dome in the US, like why we have antitrust laws here. And an antitrust law means that companies are not able to become gargantuan conglomerates where they're just huge and can price fix. We have some issues with that now. I personally think that all companies should be much smaller than they are. Not the little guys, obviously, but you know, we just gotta keep on voting, fighting, protesting. It is working slowly and not as well as most of us want, but you know, we can do it. And then they have a signature Sounds Like Winter song, He Was Gone. On the first album, they had that sea shanty sounding last song about Captain Cook. This one is, I would say that somebody saw The Lighthouse and really liked it. He Was Gone. It's about a story similar to The Lighthouse. I'm not going to wreck that story for you, so I'm not going to, I guess, explain this song anymore. Bandcamp does the best by artists, and because goth genre itself, the goth umbrella, is relatively obscure, when you have a more obscure band inside the obscure bands, giving them the best chance possible is how we can help them. So if you listen to them on Bandcamp, it gives them more listens. It makes them more likely to be served up, just kind of like YouTube does that kind of stuff. They have a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the Sounds Like Winter YouTube channel. You'll get notifications. They have several videos out there, some live performance and stuff like that. They're just a lot of stuff out there for a lot of bands you like, even the little guys, which I like to call them, like Sounds Like Winter, and you can give them a listen here or there, and that helps them out. Obviously, if you can buy the albums, the merch, if you can buy the LP, etc., that's good too. Yeah, so that's really all I have to say. It's a wonderful album. Absolutely, it sounds like winter, and it's worth the listen. And I totally failed at my fast and dirty because this is half an hour long. Well, I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Until next time.